Well, hello everybody, welcome. My name is Abigail. Welcome to this new webinar, the work for team coaching. I hope you are very well. I know it is the afternoon for some of you. It is here in Ireland. It is the morning. It is 10 a.m. So I hope you're doing very well. First of all, before starting, I would like to ask you to raise your hands if you can hear us and if you can see the first page of the slide properly, so we know that everything is set to start. You see you have a little button with a little hand raised, and that will provide us the feedback that we are good to start. Along the webinar, you can contact me. So if you have any questions or you have any trouble, you can type your questions on the questions box. And Joseph O'Connor will also offer the space for you to make questions. So in that case, you can raise your hand if you want us to open the microphone. Great. Thank you so much for the feedback. So if you have any questions, just let me know. I'll be on the questions box. Great. So we are now ready to start. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. And let me introduce Mr. Joseph O'Connor. Thank you, Joseph, for being with us today.
Hi, thanks, Abigail. Welcome, everybody. I see we have nearly 80 attendees here, so that's really great. Really good, and also it's really good to know that there's so much interest in team coaching. And I think that's interesting because I do see the focus of coaching shifting a little bit. For a long time it was individual, and now we're looking at more interest in teams because teams are becoming much more important in business. So this is a webinar on team coaching, world-class team coaching. So I want to say a little bit about my interest in team coaching, a little bit about the ICC approach, International Coaching Community, and show you some tools. So I want this to be practical as well, outline the sort of things we do in team coaching. What is team coaching? What's a team coach? How is it different from individual coaching? What its benefits are, why it's important. And I reckon for about 45 minutes or so, and then there'll be space for questions and comments. If you have a question as we go along, please type it into the questions box, and then we can collect those at a good time, and we can answer them. And then at the end, if there is someone who'd like to speak with a question, Abigail will just put up your hand, and Abigail will open the mic for you if you've got a microphone. So, I'm Joseph O'Connor. I'm co-founder with Andrea, my wife and partner, of the International Coaching Community. And we started the International Coaching Community, for those of you that didn't know, in Brazil in 2001. It's grown exponentially since then, and our first course, our first training, which is still our main training, is the International Coaching Certification, which is basically focused on individual coach, individual client. And this is certainly what still the majority of coaching is about, individual coach, individual client. But now, as I say, there's a shifting interest and shifting demand for team coaching. So ICC has our team coaching now. We are at the moment applying for a European Quality Award for our team coaching, which will be a benchmark against universities in Europe and a sign of quality. And I believe, I'm not sure, but I think that it would be then the only team coaching that does have a European Quality Award. So let's move forward. It's a big subject, it's an important subject. I'm very interested in team coaching. So what is team coaching? You all have some idea. You've all here for this webinar, so you're certainly interested. You must have some idea about what it is. So this is how I would define it, or one of the definitions. And it's helping a team to improve their performance and their processes. So that's two different things. The process is how the team works, and the quality of the process will determine the quality of the performance, because the performance will be the result of the teamwork. So good process, good performance. Bad process, bad performance. So the coach is there in the machine, as it were, making sure that the process works really well, so that the output, the performance, and the way that the team performs and what they come up with is going to be really excellent. And how do they do it? Well, in the big picture, through reflection, through action, and through dialogue. So this is a kind of circle, it's a kind of system, isn't it? Because the team takes action, and there's dialogue about that action. In other words, teams talk. This is what teams do. It's very interesting how the dynamic of talk between different people and the way that it happens leads to action, leads to new ideas, leads to creativity. And the coach needs to be able to stimulate that and to be able to cherry pick the creativity and the ideas and make sure that the process stays on track. And once there is some action and dialogue, reflection on that. And reflection means looking back, to reflect, to look back, to see, well, what do we do here? Can we do this? How's it going to work? So a kind of more objective looking, because there's two problems, isn't there? One is the team that jumps into the first idea. We're full of enthusiasm, but the first idea isn't particularly the best one, so they don't get such good results. So you need some reflection and dialogue about that. And of course you don't want a team either that does so much reflection and talking that they don't actually get any action done. That's the other pole of the extreme that you don't want. So the coach guides the team through these two problem aspects in order to get a good result. So, you know, why are we doing team coaching? Why bother? What's the point? Can't we just do individual coaching? Well, more and more now, the business unit of implementation for action and for how things work is the team. The team is the basic unit whereby businesses work. It's not just individuals working on their own little cubicle anymore, except in certain industries where that may work, like telesales or something like that. But even then, you're going to get people coming together in teams. So the team is the way to harness people's creativity so that they can stimulate each other and everybody go beyond what they could do individually. Many more businesses are using teams. People are expected in business to be a good team member. So this is a standard question at job interviews. How well do you work with other people? You know, how good a team member basically are you? And of course most people will say, yeah, great, oh sure, I do work with other people, I'm good at that. But, well, nobody tells them how. Nobody tells you how to be a good team member. This is the thing. You're expected to be one, but nobody kind of gives you any training about how to be a good team member. So one of the aspects of this particular team coaching training that we do is that not only does it teach you to be a good team coach, but it also teaches you to be a good team member, because you can't be one without the other. You need them both. So a team coach is basically helping everybody to be a good team member, and if everybody's a good team member, then the synergy of the team takes off. But as I say, there's very little instruction about how to be a good team member. It's a big opportunity for team coaches, a very big opportunity. There isn't very much training out there for team coaches. There's not much expertise in team coaching out there. So I believe that this is a very big opportunity for all coaches to be able to expand their repertoire and to enter a market which is crying out for expertise and as yet hasn't got the expertise in the amount that it needs. So then, benefits of team coaching. More effective teams. In other words, they do their projects better, the output is better. more efficient teams, so you're doing the projects quicker with more economical use of resources. Because you can get an effective team that can get a great result, but they might take months and months and go 100% over their budget. So it's good to have the result, but the time factor and the budget factor is also important. On the other hand, you don't want a really efficient team that comes up with a result in a week, uses half the budget, but the result isn't very good. You need the balance between the two. You need effectiveness and you need efficiency. And sometimes business confuses those two. And of course, it helps to embed coaching skills in the organization. So with efficient and effective teams, you have good delivery of business goals, you save time and money. Teamwork can be an enjoyable experience. In a sense, you've got to kind of learn to be good in a team. You've got to learn how a team works. And it's not just about getting on with people. It's about getting on with people in a particular way and being able to bounce off ideas and be creative. Conflicts in the team are reduced or dealt with quickly, because there's nothing that stops a team from getting a good result. If there's some kind of conflict, if people aren't getting on, if there's some kind of systemic conflict with the business, these things can really stop a team from working. So one of the jobs of a team coach is to be able to deal with that conflict, and also through helping the team in the process, they can reduce the amount of conflicts that come. It's much better to, prevention is better than cure. Sure, if you get a conflict, you can solve it, but it's much better to set up a system and a team where there isn't a conflict to start with, or the potential for conflict is much less. The team coach doesn't have to be the manager or the team leader. That's a different function. And this means that team members are likely to be more open, and problems can be solved more easily and earlier, because sometimes with a team leader or a manager, because they have a hierarchical position in the business, it can be difficult for a team to challenge them or to surface conflicts, and this is one very important aspect that we need to deal with in terms of what happens if there's some kind of dysfunctional team leader. There's a culture of collaboration from team coaching. It breaks down what's called a silo mentality, where people kind of work just in their own departments or just on their own things. They don't share, and this makes for very ineffective business practice, because people don't know what other people are doing, and things get done twice or not at all. So that's an important benefit as well. Teams become more creative. They can solve their problems together. One of the things we do in the training is particularly around creativity. How can a team be creative? What does this mean? Everybody wants to be creative, but again, you don't get much training in how can you be creative, either as an individual or as a team. So effective teams will manage the knowledge very well, manage the knowledge and information, very important in business. It can help succession planning, very important in business. Effective teams and good teams will retain valued employees, because if you're in a bad team, if you don't get on with your team, it makes working life not very good. You may be looking around for another job. If you're in a great team, you're doing good work, then you're going to stay. And as we know, especially if it's a higher level manager or executive leaving a business, this costs a lot of money. You lose the expertise and you've got to train up a replacement. This costs thousands, tens of thousands of dollars. You need to retain your valued people. How do you retain them? You make sure that their experience in work is a good one. How do you do that? You make sure that when they're working together in their team, that this is a good experience. So, a lot of benefits, a great deal of benefits. There's a lot of tools, there's a particular process to team coaching. This is what we do in the training. We'll touch on some of the ideas here. And hopefully you'll get some ideas to start with. You'll know the territory that we're dealing with, and you'll be motivated to know more about this particular aspect, a very important business aspect. So we talked a little bit about the benefits of team coaching, and we talked a little bit about what is a team coach, but what's a team? How do we think about a team? What is a team? Well, the first thing, it's not a big person. And this is the mistake that some coaches fall into. They think that when you're coaching a team, it's just like coaching a very complicated big person. It's kind of like individual coaching, but it's just bigger. And it's not. It's absolutely not. A team is not like a big person. A team is much, much more complicated. When you add people together, you get more complexity. It's exactly like with children. You know, you have no children, couples together with no children, then you have one child, and you learn to be able to deal and love that child, and then a second child. Now that's not twice as difficult. Two children are not twice as difficult to manage as one child. They're about 10 times, 100 times more difficult. Why? Because it's the way that they interact. It's not just adding another one exactly the same. It's adding another completely different human being. So the same with a person. So that's what it's not. Okay, so what is it? Well, it's a small number of people. Usually we think of teams of under 10. It's dealing with very large teams, much different sorts of challenges. So we're usually talking about a small number of people, under 10. Kind of goes together with how much our short-term memory can hold. And there's the rule, the famous 7 ± 2 rule, that our short-term memory can basically hold between 5 and 9 pieces of information without getting overloaded. So then that, if you put that together with how many people in a team, 5 to 9. Complementary skills, so that means that the skills go together, they fit together. You do not want a team who are all good at the same thing, just as you don't want a football team that are all great strikers, because they might score a lot of goals, but they'll give away a lot more. You don't want a football team that's full of great goalkeepers, because you'll save a lot, but you won't be able to score any. So, complementary skills, just like a football team. Committed to a common purpose, very important. This is one of the things that a coach does. They commit to the common purpose of team. Performance goals, common performance goals. Performance goals are what has to happen for the final goal to be done. So if the final goal of the team is some kind of output with a decision or a product, then there will be certain performance goals that they need to meet with a time scale for that to be on track. So the coach is helping them to do that. So common purpose, common performance goals, common approach, which is about values, because teams need to be clear about their values, for which they hold themselves mutually accountable. So they are accountable for that, they take responsibility, they are committed. And this is about values and emotion, and this is something that a coach can definitely and will definitely help with. So that's some idea about what is a team. Doesn't happen by magic. There are stages in which it forms. And one thing that we can say is that team is a system. And what is a system? A system is a verb. A system is a group of elements, in this case people, that are always interacting and working together and always doing something. So we think about, we talk about a system. A system is a verb. It's doing something all the time. These people in the team are always connecting, always interacting, always rubbing up against each other in some kind of way. So there's relationships, there's action, there's a purpose to the team. It's complex. And that kind of systemic thinking, and indeed systemic feeling, is one really important skill that a team coach needs. Systems thinking and being able to think in complexity, relationships, purpose, because the ways that a system works are sometimes counterintuitive to the way that you might think. And emotional thinking as well, because you're dealing with people. People think and people feel, and we'll come on a little bit to the emotional aspect in a moment. So what sort of types of teams do we have? Well, leadership teams, boards of directors is one example, groups of executives. So top leadership teams, sometimes they are very much in need of a coach, even though sometimes they don't think they need one. Top leadership teams will be full of very strong individuals all wanting to put their point in very strong ways, which can lead to conflicts. Departmental teams, this is usually what happens. You have teams within a department. Sometimes you have cross-departmental teams, so you have a particular project. This happens a lot in business where you get people from different departments coming together, each one adding their perspective from the departments. You have someone from accountancy, someone from sales, someone from marketing, someone from administration, to put together a project where all of these things are managed. Action teams, mid-management teams, creative teams, teams that go together just to come up with ideas. That's their output. Very interesting type of team. So many different sorts of teams, and as a team coach you might need to adjust your approach depending on the sort of team that you're coaching, although there are absolutely some definite principles of team coaching that work in every sort of team. Let's not forget virtual teams. More and more virtual teams now. Virtual teams are groups, teams that never meet, sometimes never meet in the flesh. They meet through computer, it's computer mediated. They may meet through Skype calls, conference calls, maybe by webcams. There's a lot of software now that allows you to kind of meet in a virtual room. You can even see each other. It's never quite takes the place of real people meeting together in a real room and being next to each other. But it brings its own challenges to work in a virtual team. And for a team coach, as there are more and more virtual teams, this is also something that needs to be looked at quite carefully. So plenty of different sorts of teams. Just one little idea here, or one way of looking at teams that's quite interesting. Some teams have an unstable membership. In other words, the members change. Sometimes they change all the time. So the team stays the same, but the members are changing. And some teams, of course, have a very stable membership. The membership does not change. Boards of directors, they don't change, or very seldom. In the same way, you can have a team, in terms of what they do, where the tasks are changing all the time. They have to do all sorts of different things. And you get teams where the tasks they have to do pretty much the same all the time. And you can map these four things. So you could have a team with unstable membership. In other words, the members are changing all the time, but they do the same tasks. And a very good example of that is airline crew, flight crew. So you go on an airplane, you're not likely, you have the different pilot, different co-pilot, you'll have different cabin crew. the team will change, but the tasks they have to do, fly the airplane safely, look after the passengers, these are very highly automated and routinized with checklists. They've got to be done exactly the same. So that's an example of an unstable membership, but tasks stay exactly the same. You can have an unstable membership and you can have changing tasks, you know, SWAT team. Members are always changing, and the sort of things that they're called out to do are always changing as well. You can have a stable membership team. You can have a team where the membership is the same. And you can have teams that do tasks that stay the same. So maybe a committee, same people doing the same thing. And you can have a stable membership where the tasks are changing all the time. So the distinction of the membership of whether it's stable or unstable is important in a team, and the distinction of a task, whether it's changing or not changing. So this gives another aspect to the sort of teams. A lot of business teams, of course, they have stable membership up to a point. Maybe they may stay stable for a long time, or they may go 3-6 months until their job is done and then it's finished. And these teams may have very different tasks to do all the time, or they may have just one, or they may have one task which takes in a lot of different sorts of things, like in a IT company, a company like Google. You know, you could have like a think tank. You could have a group of people coming together, and their job is simply to come up with new ideas that a firm like Google could try out, implement perhaps. So that's the different sorts of teams. So then, if we're thinking about different sorts of teams, what about a team coach? What does the team coach do? So here's a little kind of story, and it comes from a story that I heard originally about an oasis in the desert, and people in the oasis are arguing because there's 3 sons, and the father has just died and is left the whole of the wealth of his wealth to the 3 sons. But the wealth consists of 17 camels. That is their wealth, 17 camels. And in the father's will, he said that the elders should have half of the wealth, and the middle son should have 1/3 of the wealth, and the youngest son should have 1/9 of the wealth. So the eldest son wants half the wealth, and there's 17 camels. So that would mean 8.5 camels. But then if you cut a camel in half, you don't get half a functional camel, you get 1 dead camel. So that was kind of a problem. So the wise man is riding in on his camel, as you can see in the slide, and he sees these 3 sons arguing. And he says, okay, well, look, let me propose a situation. Let me propose a solution to this. I'll tell you what. I will give you my camel, okay? There, it's yours. I don't want anything for it. There you go. So now, you did have 17 camels, now you've got 18. 18, okay. Well, the eldest son wants half, so that's great. They take 9, so they've got half the wealth. Half of 18, they take 9. The middle son gets 1/3, so they get 6. 6 camels, 1/3 of 18, great. And the youngest gets 1/9 of the wealth, and 1/9 portion of 18 camels is 2 camels. So the eldest is happy, he's got 9. The middle son is happy, he's got 6. And the youngest son is happy, he's got 2. And you may notice that 9 plus 6 plus 2 equals 17. So that leaves 1 left over. And by a very happy chance, that 1 left over is the wise man's camel. So the wise man takes back his camel. They give it back to him. It's superfluous. And off he goes, after no doubt having a very good meal, courtesy of the 3 sons for solving the problem. Now, why am I telling you this? Because it seems like a team coach is a little bit like the wise man coming in. They make a difference. They come in, they make a difference through generosity, through service. They make a difference to the people. The team may not be arguing, but something needs to be solved. And afterwards, the problem is solved, and the team coach has not lost anything and is able to follow in. So the team coaches have made themselves part of the team, given the camel, but also in a way stayed outside the team because the team coach is solving the problem. And in the end he gets his camel back, so he loses nothing. So I think it's a very interesting little metaphor about how a team coach works. They have a special place. They're outside the system of the team, but they need to go inside in some kind of way in order to work with the team and to be of service to the team. But afterwards, they move out again. So that's the team coach. So what does a team coach have to do? They have to coach a number of individuals into a team with shared values and a common goal. They've got to coach the team to work together to achieve the goals. They've got to coach the team through conflicts that might occur. And they've got to coach the team through their celebration, hopefully, of achieving the goal. And all the time, they are the guardian of the team values and the guardian of purpose and direction of the team. So, then what do we do in team coaching? How do we learn team coaching? What sort of things are we going to be doing? So the position of the team coach, as I said, kind of both in the system but outside the system, a juggling act, an interesting juggling act for the team coach, a way of thinking that needs to be really lived in order to get. To build the team goal, to give them direction, to unite the team with team values, very important. They're not going to work together without team values. To coach them through possible obstructions and to bring together the team resources. All of these things. One way that the coach does this, and this is a very interesting tool for those of you that haven't come across this, it's called the goal grid. And if you think about a goal, there are elements of what you have already, like the resources that you have, the things that go in to make the goal, and what you don't have, things that you want. And also there are things that you don't want and things that you don't have. So down on the left-hand side, we've divided into things that you have, if you think about a goal. If you think about any goal that you want, there are certain things that you've got already. And there are certain things that you don't have and you want to achieve. And there are certain things that you want and there are certain things that you don't want. So you can see from this grid, when you can identify what you want and what you have, you want to keep it. Those are things that you definitely want to keep. These will be the kinds of resources and important things that you have and will contribute towards that goal. And it's important to identify those, because if you, unless you're careful, you might throw those out. The things that you want and you don't have, this is what you need to achieve. This is the kind of work that you're moving towards. So that's the bottom left corner. And then there are things that you don't want, but you have. And this is a very important aspect of goal setting and goal achieving. You want to get rid of those. You want to eliminate them. You find them present, but you don't want them. They're in your way. These are the obstructions. And these can be ideas, they can be beliefs, they can be conflicts, they can be all sorts of things. They can be a bad environment, all those things that are stopping the team from working together to get the goal. Eliminate. Those are the things you want to get rid of. And that is often the place to start to get the most traction, the most leverage in order to get the goal. And there are things that you don't want and you don't have. And you want to make sure you avoid them because you don't want to stumble into some kind of obstruction because you're looking too much at what you want to achieve. And this is another difficult issue that happens with individuals and teams. They're so focused on what they want to achieve, they don't pay attention to the traps and pitfalls on the way. And then they fall into a hole. Yeah, so this is about watching out. This is about risk management. So these 4 aspects of the goal are very important, especially in teams, because all different people bring different perspectives to that. So this is one way that we work with goals in team coaching. So very useful tool. What's important about team coaching? Stages of development of a team. Teams go through stages. This is one way it's very different from individual coaching. Teams go through certain stages, and the way that you coach a team must be different depending on the development stage of the team. Because if you try and coach a team in the same way as they go through different stages, it won't work. You need different coaching strategies depending on your analysis and your awareness of where is the team in their stages of development. And this has been well charted over the years. Creativity, bringing out teams' creativity, very important. The balance between task and relationship. So task is what the team does, and relationship is how they get on. There are some teams very task-focused, you know, get on, do the job, get the goal, never mind about having a good time. Not such happy teams. They can be effective, but they're not so happy. And then there's other teams where it's, oh yeah, it's great, everybody's friends, go down to the bar at the end and at the end of the day and have a drink together. And they may neglect the goal. So for a best functioning team, you really want to balance those two out. You want to make sure the job is done, but you also want to make sure that the relationship between people is excellent. We'll look at internal and external team coach. Internal team coach is somebody in the business who is taking the role of a team coach, and an external team coach would be somebody the business hires from the outside in order to come in and coach the team. And it depends on, you know, there's scope for both. Some people need training to be an internal team coach to be effective. Some people will be an external team coach, and they will be hired by businesses to come in and work with different teams. And of course, in the end, all of this leads, we hope, to high performance teams. They work well together and their output is great. And always, of course, there is the possibility of conflict, and this is something that the team coach needs to deal with. It's can be greater in some teams. Sometimes there's very little, but there's always some, and this is okay. The job of the team coach is not to eliminate conflict. You certainly don't want that. The job of the team coach is to make sure that the conflict leads to something that is generative and moves the team forward. Yeah? As they say, you don't get traction without friction. In other words, you don't get movement forward without friction of some different things rubbing together. That's what creates the spark. That's what creates the creativity. So you're not trying to avoid conflict. There'll always be conflict, and that's fine. You're going to manage it and deal with it as a team coach. One other thing about team coaching, very important, is the emotional space that people have. Because when you put people together, they will put themselves in a certain space. They will relate to each other in a certain way, and that way that they relate to each other will be reflected in their position in space. How close are they together? Yeah? Do they form a circle? Is some people more out to the side? How do they position themselves? Because the way that we position ourselves in space in relation to other people is a reflection and sometimes a definition of how we relate to other people. And this is known as psychogeography. In other words, it's how space is a metaphor for relationship. Because we talk about people being distant. This is a metaphor for space. They're distant, they're far away, but also distant emotionally. And we talk about being close to people. All of these things are reflected in the way that the people in a team sit, space themselves out, who sits with who, how they space out. And I find this so fascinating that this is the subject of the book that I'm writing on emotional space. We know about it for individuals. You know, we know that there's what's called an intimate space where people will tolerate only people that they're intimate with, and you don't want to invade that space, otherwise people will move away. They'll feel uncomfortable. And it goes not just for the front, but also for the back. You know, if somebody is using a cash machine, you really don't want to stand right behind them. They will feel very, very uncomfortable. You can imagine if you're trying to take money out of a cash machine and somebody's breathing down your neck. So we have our intimate space, we have our personal space where we are comfortable talking with people and socially, and we have our social space where, you know, it's no people move about in that space. So we know about this for individuals. What isn't so well charted is how this works with groups of individuals, with teams. So this is something that's really different about what we do in team coaching. And by the way, these distances vary with culture. They are greater in, generally speaking, in European culture than they are in Latin American culture, for example. So that's a little bit about emotional space. What do we want at the end? We want a high-performing team. That's what we're after. That's the whole point of the coach, to get a high-performing team. And a high-performing team will create something magic, something wonderful. But they can't do it as individuals. They have to do it as a team. It's very, very rewarding to work as a team coach with a high-performing team, and it's very, very rewarding to work as a member of a high-performing team. I'm sure that all of you listening will have had times when you've been in a group of people where it's just really, you know, you're really smoking, you're really doing well, it really feels great. There's a flow, the ideas come, it's just wonderful. The time passes, and you're really satisfied with what happens at the end. And this is what we're after. And as a team coach, this is what you can make. So in our team coaching training, it's about team building, it's about team membership, being a good team member, and it's about team coaching, because those three go together. To build a team, to be good out of good team members, people learn to be good team members, and this is what team coaching does. And in the coaching training, it's really experiential. In other words, you live it. You live being a team coach. You practice it all the time. You live building a team. You're doing it all the time. You live being a good team member. You do it throughout the training. And this is of course, the best way to learn. It's almost impossible to learn these skills without engaging in them. Teamwork is a contact sport. It's something that you can't learn in the abstract. You actually have to do it. So that's pretty much what I want to say. We've covered, I think, a lot, a lot of ideas. So now I'd just like to stop for a little bit at the end now and to see if there are any questions or comments that have come up from you guys throughout this short talk that I've done. So open to you. If there's something in the question box, Abigail can read them out and I'll answer them.
Okay, we don't have any questions on the questions box.
Okay, well then I'm open to any questions that anyone would like to type in the questions box, and I'm open to anybody who would like to, if they'd like to ask a question, Abigail can open the mic.
Mm-hmm.
Or make a comment, or you know, whatever you like.
Well, we have Małgorzata from, she is Polish and she is living in Prague, so she says thank you very much. She can hear us well from Prague, Czech Republic. And
good.
Joanna says,
well,
sorry.
Sorry, no, I just wanted to say Prague is a beautiful city, and in the spring it must be wonderful. So greetings.
Yeah, Joanna says, not really a question, but I would like to thank you for bringing up this topic. Ludmila says, thank you for such a good overview. Małgorzata says, thank you for your words for Prague. And what coaching techniques are usually used for team coaching? Are there any specific techniques?
Techniques, yeah. Well, yes, in the sense that there's a certain process that you need to go through, certain methodology. But it's not so much about cut and dry techniques. There are some that we go into, but it's more about working through the process, because you know, teams made up of lots of people, it's messy, it's unpredictable. You try and go with a kind of set technique, and it, you know, somebody will not fit in. If you've got one person, then you know, coaching with one person, then it can work. You can say, look, let's try this technique. I wanted to move you through it. With teams, much messier. So it's more like sequences of questions. It's more like sequences of getting the team to a certain point before moving on.
Great. Ro says, I would be interested in hearing. Oh, sorry, it moved because we're getting more questions. In getting your opinion on the difference between group coaching and team coaching.
Well, I say team coaching because I make a distinction between teams and groups. Groups are a number of people who occupy the same space. That's a group. And a team is a number of people who occupy the same space, who are working in the same direction towards a particular goal, who share values, and who hold themselves mutually accountable. Mm-hmm. So one of the jobs of a team coach is to turn a group into a team. So that's how I make that distinction. So I'm always going to talk about team coaching.
Great. Carmen asks, how is team coaching different from doing coaching to the different people separately?
Well, coaching different people separately is coaching one person at a time, and coaching a team is coaching those people all together, working as a team. Sometimes a team coach will coach each member of the team individually, sometimes, particularly if there's a conflict, but usually it's just coaching the team, you know, the number of people. They're all together, people talking at once, people coming up with different ideas. It's quite different to coaching individuals.
Katarina says, Joseph, you have not mentioned any tools. I was trying to use the coaching tools and team coaching, and it does not seem to work well.
No, that's right. Well, one tool is the goal grid, that works very well in team coaching. There are other tools, but in a short webinar, we really can't go into that. You'll have to come to the team coaching that I'm going to be running in Bali. Beautiful, beautiful place. And once we've done the team, come for a holiday and do some team coaching and learn as well.
Yukonobu asks, could the team coaching methods apply in the school coaching?
In school coaching, yeah, that's interesting because if you're, well, in school coaching, let me make a distinction then, because I'm not entirely sure what you're saying. Coaching is not teaching. So, if you're a teacher, then you're teaching a class certain things, and that you're not coaching the class particularly. There may be aspects where you might want to bring in some coaching skills into your teaching, but that's a little bit different. That's a bit like a manager bringing in coaching skills to their managing. But as a coach in the education, you might be working with educational teams. You might be working in a school with the teaching staff. Now they're a team. Sometimes they really don't work together very well, whereas we know certainly that that a school that has a good teaching staff that works together as a team does very much better than a school that doesn't. So there's lots of opportunities in the education field, let's put it that way.
Okay, and Carmen, who is rectifying the question, so she wanted to know, how is team coaching different than coaching individuals all together in the same place?
Well, it's difficult for me to, I would still make the distinction that why would you want to coach a number of individuals in the same place? You'd want to coach them separately. If you're coaching one person, you're coaching that one person. You need to listen to them, you need to pay attention to them, you need to ask them questions. So you're with that one person. If you're coaching a team, then the team is what you coach. It's the group of people. You're not coaching any particular one person in that team. You may, as part of your team coaching, take a person out and coach them separately for some reason, but that's quite different. And the way the team coaching works in business is that you come in and here's your team. 6, 7, 8 people. We're the team. Off you go. So it's I don't really still understand the question, because you wouldn't coach people separately in the same room. You send everybody out except for the person that you're coaching. Maybe I'm not understanding still.
We have a question from Lars Eric. He says, you mentioned that you should not avoid or eliminate conflicts, instead using these conflicts to move the team forward. Do you then also create conflicts for that purpose?
Yes, but this is something you've got to be very careful about. There are all sorts of different sorts of conflicts that come for different reasons. Structural conflicts, systemic conflicts, environmental conflicts, personality conflicts, conflicts simply because people had a bad day, they're in a bad mood, they've had a quarrel with their spouse or something like that. So all sorts of different sorts of conflicts there are. Now you may want to create conflict in the sense of bringing out two different ideas. Supposing there are two possible answers or two different ideas that have come out of the team in over the course of the team coaching. You may want to surface those and say, look, these are different. What do you think? And then one person might argue for one person might argue for another, and then you're going to get, maybe one will prevail, maybe neither will prevail, and a third, even better one will come out. Maybe the two will come together in a synthesis and you'll get the best of both. So you've provoked a kind of clash of ideas in order to move the team forward. So in that sense, yes, you can provoke conflict. I wouldn't I can't think of a time when you might want to provoke personal conflict, because when people get personal, they forget how to think, and they just feel emotionally vulnerable. So yes, and it's something you need to be a little bit careful with, I think. But nice question.
We have a question from Carla. I think she's in Venezuela now. She was mentioning that it's 4 a.m. in the morning for her now.
Whoa, yeah, good for you. Wow, I salute you there. I was thinking that maybe there wouldn't be so many people from Latin America because it's pretty early.
She says, "Hi Joseph, I am glad to hear and learn with you again. Thanks, thank you very much. And I would like to know if there would be any continuity to this class, or which material you suggest for team coaching in companies."
Sorry, any continuity for the class?
Yes, to this webinar.
Ah, yes, okay. Well, I've highlighted the Bali Indonesian one, but for those of you on the other side of the world, I'm also going to be doing one in Santiago, Chile, in August. So there is that there's that possibility to follow up in South America. And the other question was about what? About tools again?
Material. And reading material.
Material. Oh, reading material. Very little, surprisingly, very little on team coaching. I know very few. There's one by I can't remember what it's called. Coaching teams at work. I think it's something like Coaching Teams at Work. It's by an English author called David Clutterbuck. Clutterbuck. And that's a very nice book on team coaching. I don't know if it's in other languages. I know it's in English, but that's one to follow up. Otherwise, I've got to say that I haven't heard of many books on team coaching. It seems to be neglected at the moment, but I think there will be an explosion in 2-3 years.
Alexander has a question. It's a bit long, so bear with me. So he is saying, do you have any idea why there is such a high demand for team coaching now? Maybe it's because the new generation, that is to say the Facebook type, needs more teamwork kind of skills.
Maybe. Maybe. I think there's always a balancing and a rebalancing, as you say, because, you know, if we talk about business, you see, there's always been teams, particularly in sport, you know, football teams. So there's always been that sport aspect of team coaching. But in business, I think the ground has shifted a lot in terms of business culture, whereby people are expected to work together, and it's clear that the synergy between people working together will produce far better results than any genius individual working on their own, unless that individual happens to be someone like Einstein. You know, of course, there are genius individuals. But usually, for most of us, we need other people. So there's definitely been a shift in the business culture on that. And then it's interesting, as you say, there's the fact that technology more and more isolates us in one way, but then the paradox is that technology is more and more trying to bring us together in another way. So it isolates us by putting us in front of our computer with nobody else, but then it tries to bring us together in social media like Facebook and Twitter so that we can interact with other people. So it's an interesting dynamic.
Torben from Denmark asks, how do the personal types like dominant, social, and likely influence the way we approach our team coaching?
Sorry, how do the different types of what?
The types of personality.
Types of personality, well, that's another question altogether. There are many, many, many different ways that we can kind of carve up personality. I mean, we get a team of psychologists in the room and they won't even agree on what personality means. So there are many different ways of doing that. Sometimes, and I've done this with teams, you do psychometric tests with teams, and you can get some idea about how people might work together. MBTI or Berkman or DISC or something like that. But usually when you're a team coach, you're in the thick of it. You know, you're there, you've got 8 people, they're all trying to talk together. One person's kind of shouting at another person, one person sitting in the corner. At that stage, you're not going to be thinking about, oh, well, this person's introverted and this person's FHAP or whatever it is from MBTI, and this person's got this sort of complex. So, because that doesn't tell you anything in terms of what to do with that complexity that's happening with you right at the moment. You need to solve that as a systemic problem. Yeah, you need to solve that as it happens. Those particular dynamics of the personality are going to be more useful in possible prediction and afterwards explanation. But the job of the team coach is to manage the system at a time. So, you know, it's like I don't like to make machine metaphors, but if you think about a machine, you know, you've got to make sure that that machine works well and everything's working together. Now, you may know that this piece is made of aluminium and this piece is made of steel, and they're not going to work together so well, but if you need to make that engine work, then you've got to deal with that. And you're not going to change people's personalities. So you have to, whatever they are, you have to work with them in order to get the best results. So very big subject there. And it's everybody will bring their own different aspects to that.
We have so many interesting questions, so I apologize if we can't cover them all.
Okay, I'll take 3 more.
Great. We have a question from Mauro. I believe he was just certified with Andrea in Brazil. So Mauro, correct me if I'm wrong. Yes, he says, hi Joseph, thanks for the webinar. Generally, is there a difference in price per hour between individual and team coaching, or are they the same?
What do you mean in terms of the training course? The price of the training course, or what the coach charges?
I'm not sure. I think what the coach charges, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, let me take that, because you know, prices of training courses differ completely depending where you are. But if you, well, this is my perspective on let's say business team coaching. If you're a team coach and you're called into a business to do team coaching, you need to know, why are they calling you in? What do they want from you? And this is true even when you're doing individual coaching. You know, what do they want the coaching to achieve? Because I always say nobody wants coaching. They want results. And coaching is the means to the end. So, okay, they want team coaching, but what is the result that they want? Now, that result will be a particular business result, and you've got to tie it to a business result. So then, according to what that business result is, the team coach is going to make a proposal about how they will work with the team, how long they will work with the team, what sort of interventions they will make, what sort of follow-up work there is, whether there's going to be individual coaching as well with team members, and then they'll put forward a proposal based on that. Generally speaking, because that is more complex and will take longer, the team coaching proposal will generally be more expensive than any individual coaching proposal. Individual coaching proposal will still need to take into account what do you want to achieve, but it's likely to be shorter. Now, of course, the other thing that you can sometimes have is an individual coach going into a company to coach a lot of different people, in which case, of course, then that may be a very expensive project, depending on how many people you're going to be coaching. So the answer, as with many things in coaching, is it depends. But I think you can say that as a team coach, you're going to need to deal with the system of the business and the business results and put forward a considered proposal that will generally take longer than if you're going with just one individual that you're going to be coaching in a business.
Great. We have a question from Virginia. She's asking, is this presentation going to be shared on the ICC web? Because I did not take it completely. Yes, indeed, we're going to share the recording on the ICC TV section. So it's going to, we are also going to send you a follow-up email with the direct link as soon as it's ready. We have a question about what is the ideal amount of people to be in a team to be coached.
Well, I can only give you a personal answer on this. I would say between 5 and 9. That would be mine, but you don't always get the luxury of choosing. You know, as a team coach, you may go into a business and they say, right, here's your team. There's 3 people. You go, okay, still a team. You may go into a business and they go, here's your team. It's 20 people. You go, okay, that's interesting. How am I going to do this? Because 20 people, as a team, as a creative team, doesn't work so well, because basically what you're going to do, what you're going to see, and this will be mirrored in the psychogeography, is you're going to get 3 or 4 people who will dominate. It'll be maybe 4 or 5 people dominating. You'll get 4 or 5 people who won't say anything, and then you'll get the rest of them kind of saying something in the middle. So you may want to split that up in some way, but that would be a negotiation with the business. So my, you know, to make a direct answer to your question, my answer would be between 5 and 9.
Mm-hmm. Great. And for our last question today, we have a question from Maggie. She asks, "Hi, I wonder how you communicate your idea or thought if you are the only one who thinks this and you still want to pursue your idea from known facts and literature. You think you're right."
Okay, I need a bit more context on that. How are we talking about team coaching here? I don't quite understand that. Can you say a bit more, Maggie? I need more context.
While Maggie gets back to us, Kasia and Christoph were confirming that the book by David Clutterbuck is called Coaching the Team at Work.
Ah, great. Yeah. I was close.
Uh-huh.
Good. Thank you. Thank you. Coaching the team at work.
Mm-hmm. Ooh. Okay, so Maggie says, I thought according to values. When they don't see the point of being respectful to your idea and how to communicate your idea.
Again, I'm not. I'll take it as someone in a team. Then, I mean, this can happen in a team. Supposing somebody is trying to communicate their idea and someone else is being disrespectful. The job of the team coach, if this is called, you know, if this is a problem, which it usually is to resolve that conflict. Now, the way that this works for a team coach, and this is why values are so important, is that there will be an agreement about values beforehand, and there are particular techniques that you can use in order to get this. Now, once you have an agreement about values between people in a team, that is automatically going to mean that they're not, you know, respect is an integral part of that, because nobody wants to be disrespected in the way that they define respect, whatever that might mean. So therefore, if you've defined values well as a team coach and the team has signed up to that, then you can appeal to that, and that will put a stop to it. If there is a constant conflict with one person continually being disrespectful to a lot of other people, then probably you will need to take out that person, and you will need to find out from them individually in an individual coaching session what's going on. If there is a person who is particularly sensitive to other people's feedback and they feel disrespected even though other people may not have that intention, then again you may need to take that person out in an individual coaching session and do a little bit of work with them about how they are feeling so sensitive and so vulnerable, in that environment and what can be done about that. So that's the best I can do there. There may be people in a team, of course, who just don't want to be there, and this can be very tricky. Just like in individual coaching, you can't coach somebody who doesn't want to be coached. And it's extremely difficult if somebody's in a team and they don't want to be in that team. You need some way of resolving that. Either they need to be in the team and contribute, or they need to leave the team. But that decision is not for you as the team coach to take. That decision is for the management to take. So, good. Well, thank you all. I'd love to continue, but lots of other things to do today, and I guess you guys have as well. Thank you very much for all your attention, for all your questions and your engagement. And as we say, we'll be in touch with you about the team coaching trainings. You know, there's one in Bali in November. If you're in South America, there's one in Santiago in Chile in August, and I hope to see many of you in one or the other. So have a good day or morning or afternoon or evening, and hope to speak with you again sometime. Thanks. Bye.